Hi, Dennis Weiss. Welcome to our town. We're at Great Plains Theater again today to film this episode. We have Allison Blake, the Executive Director of the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce. Good morning.
Good morning, Dennis.
What a beautiful day outside.
It is. Let's see if spring sticks around this time.
Well, we had a frost last night. We filmed these on Thursday, so Wednesday night we had a frost, and I hear we might have another one tonight.
Well,
Kansas.
that's right. Just have to roll with it.
Patience is required.
Absolutely.
So, but the best part of this conversation, we're in Abilene, Kansas.
That's right.
Great Plains Theater. Hey, by the way, Camelot starts June 8th, and you need to come. Thank you to them for always letting me set up and host here, and they put a little curtain up for us and printed me a poster off at the last minute today. So thank you, Great Plains Theater. But Allison, we get up every day and work on Abilene.
That's
each
right.
in our own way. Your job is Chamber of Commerce, and I always like to say the home of business in Abilene, the collective home of business. You represent business. So how's business in Abilene?
It's fantastic. As you know, we have several new businesses coming up around town 24/7. I had an email this morning that said they're planning to open on the 30th.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, Love's is coming right along. And then the big announcement last week, or earlier this week, I guess, with Bradford Built coming to expand here from Washington. We're extremely excited about that, of course.
So very excited. Dave filmed that little press conference, and you can go see it on eaglecomptv.net if you weren't able to attend. But what an exciting announcement. 175 by 500 foot building were the rough dimensions he said out loud. And he made the joke that they can have combine races in it. But that gives you a sense of the scale.
Absolutely.
50 jobs right off the bat.
Yes.
And producing he wants to produce 100 truck beds a day in Abilene.
He said one every 5.5 minutes. I was astounded. That's fantastic.
Is that not exactly what we've all been working on for quite some time?
Absolutely. And I know that we can provide their new employees the quality of life that everyone's looking for these days. And we just finished that Rural Opportunities Conference.
Yes.
And as I listened to other people around the state share some of their concerns, I felt very blessed that Abilene doesn't have a lot of those concerns when it comes to quality of life and amenities that we're lacking and things like that. We can really get everything right here.
We were in Newton at the Quality of Life, Rural Opportunities Conference was the name of the conference. But I was very pleased that a large section of one day was devoted to quality of life. And here's why. So I work in broadband, internet. So we used to go to these conferences, and so many people would present the economic development view that if you had all the internet you wanted, boy, your town would just explode with growth. Not so much. It's a great tool. Internet's a great tool, but it's just a tool. Absolutely. Quality of life, it's part of quality of life. If you can have great internet at work at home, that's quality of life. But it's just one piece of quality of life.
Absolutely. You can have fantastic internet and still be a hermit with no services and have to order everything in here.
Yeah.
We have all of the other pieces as well. A great education system, great stores, great restaurants, great tourism, great theater. I'm super excited about Camelot, by the way. It's one of my favorites.
Are you? So at one point in time, I used to get asked to volunteer to do things. I said, when I heard this was coming, I said, so if you need somebody to ride a horse and charge in through one side and knock another guy off a horse, I'm all in. They just looked at me and said, no, we don't need that.
Oh,
how disappointing. Yes, yes. So sticking on to Rural Opportunities Conference, and a reminder, this show has always been about the good things that are going on in the town we're filming in, and most of the time we film right here. But the reason we talk about the good things is to remind people that growth is so necessary, and understanding your assets as a community is part of presenting it out so you can grow. I just think Chamber of Commerce, the CVB, our new Economic Development Corporation guy, Chuck Scott, is already in the game and winning.
Absolutely.
We're just so well prepared to compete for growth.
I agree. We're poised for it. There are already many conversations going on around the various entities about building our workforce. And we're looking at internship opportunities, apprenticeship opportunities, and a variety of other things, targeting even our younger kids that are still in school to show them the opportunities that are here in Abilene, that they don't need to, move away to another area or to another state. We have those opportunities right here where they can build a career, raise their families, and continue to stay in the community. So we're very excited about that.
So we both heard the presentation from the podium about the internship and apprenticeships and those kinds of things, and yeah, we've heard that before. But you were also privileged to sit at the table with a lady from Miami County, yes, who is doing a bang-up job in that, and so you got to spend more time talking about it. So would you share with us a little bit about what linking young people together with business can do for us as a community?
Well, I spoke with Chastity from the Registered Apprenticeship Program, and she shared with me a number of different programs. They have a variety of different setups already in place that they can come in and customize to individual businesses, and they do everything from manufacturing jobs, welders, and mechanics, things like that. But they also have programs for office workers and help with some of the soft skills types of things that some kids graduate from high school and maybe don't have quite yet. So I was very excited and immediately thought of several businesses around town that could benefit from something like that, where they can reach out to either the high school students and get them in play before they move away somewhere else, or even to someone who maybe, she mentioned that a lot of the candidates for the programs are people who maybe started to go to college and then life kind of got in the way, and they wound up in a career that doesn't necessarily have any upward mobility, and so they target those individuals that want to do something new and different for their employment, and work with them to get them some longevity and some different directions that they can grow.
I thought it was so interesting. We had at least 3 keynote level sort of speakers all bring up the same issue about connecting with young people earlier, mm-hmm, from different perspectives. They brought it up from all 3 different Department of Ag, Department of Commerce, mm-hmm, and then out in industry. All 3 spoke to that as an issue. And we got to meet, and I think I have her card in my pocket. I do. Dr. Diane DeBacker, yes, Executive Director of Business and Education Innovation, a brand new office at Commerce. And her opening line was, "So glad to see you people from Commerce in the audience, to get a chance to tell you what we do, what I do." And they all were listening because this is so new, just established, but it's a link between business and education, and innovation is how they're going to do it. I was so impressed by her presentation. As was I.
I really enjoyed what she had to say about, we've been talking about this problem for a number of years, and now it's time to actually figure out the solutions and put some things in place. Yeah. And she seemed to have some really good ideas and had a real grasp of the overall issues themselves. Yeah. And I really loved what she had to say about, the #1 complaint that we heard over and over again from a lot of the people that spoke was they'd like to work with high school kids, but they can't figure out the insurance piece.
Right, the liability piece.
Liability. And she said, if we can figure out the insurance liability for 7th graders playing football, I think we can figure out the insurance liability for a student in manufacturing.
I was the one who started the clapping at
I
that.
Agreed 100%. That was fantastic.
The other thing she said that really impressed me about this person is one of those people that's just going to get stuff done. She said, or maybe you programs that did it, instead of figuring it all out, you just went and did it anyway.
Yes.
Okay, that's my life motto. So, there's people around me that have suffered through some of that with me, but if you win, and this is something, this educational challenge in Kansas, mm-hmm, we could sit here for 5 hours and talk about education from all different points of view. But this conference was talking about rural opportunities. Mm-hmm. There is nobody at more risk from the failure between education and business than rural America. Our children are leaving to go somewhere that there's a better opportunity. We must solve this problem. Part of it is in education, and part of it is in the economy, in the business model. We have to get that closer together sooner, and I can't disagree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, gosh, it was fun to hear some people with, a position to speak from.
Absolutely.
That had a real passion for this topic.
Yeah, I commend our new governor for stepping up and creating that position for her, and I was very excited that he recognized that and seems to be very in tune to our education needs and the challenges we face. So I thought that her new position was definitely a step in the right direction. What
did you hear from people in your job or close to your jobs at the other tables as you circulated for a couple of days about their communities?
One of the individuals who was sitting at my table was originally from Chanute, Kansas, and he was an engineer. He'd been in Kansas City for many years and had decided that he was going to go back to Chanute for a little while and telecommute. And he'd been gone for over 20 years, and then he got down there and started to reconnect with people that he had grown up with, and they invited him to be a part of the economic development piece. And he said, I never envisioned myself there, but now that I'm here, I love it again, and I remember why I loved it as a child. And that started that conversation about recruiting alumni from high schools and things in a similar way that maybe keeping track of those alumni, reaching out to them periodically, because maybe they have moved away, but maybe it's time for them to come back and see what new opportunities we have. So, universities and colleges tend to keep track of their alumni. Maybe it's time that Abilene starts to track its high school alumni as well.
Yeah, several people spoke to that at the conference, and in fact, I had heard that from another community in a private conversation the week before the conference, how important it is to try to reach back to those alumni and tell them what's going on, because it's the city of Lincoln, because Lincoln has some really good news. We're putting in a fiber to the home facility there in cooperation with them. Once they reach a minimum number of subscribers, we're going to go, and I have every confidence it's going to work.
Outstanding.
But it really is what we heard at the conference. It's business and municipal partnership there, where we're putting the money in, but they're putting in the effort to make it successful. That's what it takes in small town America to make things go.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think with our new city manager and we have some new city commissioners, and I think we're really poised for those partnerships now. They have new vision, fresh ideas, and they're ready to make things happen.
Yeah, in the last few weeks we've had Chuck Scott sitting in that chair. We've had James Holland sitting in that chair. And James is now in the government side of this business again, and Chuck is working really for the private industry, even though the city and the county both contribute some. Private industry is contributing the most to funding that position. But to me, how exciting it was to hear the exact same perspectives being presented, one from growth side, the other from government side, and everybody's aimed at the same target. That almost ensures success.
Absolutely, I do. I think Chuck Scott has some fantastic ideas. He's got a great background, and I think the connections to really make things happen. So I'm really excited to see what he continues to do. Obviously, the Bradford built expansion is one of his first coups, but I think that's just the beginning of many.
I am sure that's true. I'm sure that's true. So you're the Chamber of Commerce, and when James was sitting here the other day, I said, so now that you're back in government, does Abilene still mean business? It was a private joke, I guess, because he used to host a show for us called Abilene Means Business, and he assured me that it still meant business, and it does, and I think that's what we're saying. We're saying that the forces that make communities move, from the citizens on up through their representatives, their member organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, Julie Roller at the CVB, people are pulling on a rope the same direction, and we're moving the community towards prosperity.
Absolutely, yeah. And as we, as those new businesses come here, as the Chamber of Commerce, we'll continue to help them be successful, help them grow, help them, get their message out in any way we can, and help them forward their mission in any ways we can. So
I don't really, I run into some of your board from time to time, but you can point this video at them and run into all of them for me. So I was so pleased to see you at attendance at the Rural Opportunities Conference, and pleased to see you engage with the people you engaged with, because there's real value in some of these things. They're not just, you know, buffet lines at lunch.
Right.
They really have the people who are trying to figure problems out and the commonality of solutions, and you sitting at the table with a lady from Miami County who really has done the best job in Kansas with this apprenticeship, internship, and have some success stories to share. How much is that worth? Way more than the $75 you paid to go.
Absolutely.
Way more.
Absolutely. And my board is very supportive with, you know, my being out in the community, being involved in those educational opportunities and, you know, networking opportunities, and that's very valuable. You know, they could tell me to stay in my office and, you know, do the books, but they're very encouraging about me being out in the community and not, you know, being chained to my desk all day, and I appreciate that greatly, because I think that's what this position needs.
So on the first day we had Shekinah Bailey, who works for the USDA, is a young gentleman with close cropped hair and a gray suit on, who spoke to us about what he does in rural development, and it's, I think, the first conference in Kansas anyway that I've been to where my company, Eagle Communications, was mentioned more than once, and it was in reference to what we're doing in broadband, and he was simply recognizing that I was sitting in the crowd, and in order to give my company credit for what we have done well in small town America, including Abilene, he spoke to the people that he knew in the arena that had done so, which was a great thing.
Yeah.
It's not really to have your name mentioned, but it's to be recognized that we're moving that needle along with our community partners, and that we're there in the room as a provider with our community partners like you. I was so encouraged by that, because it's been years and years and years that small companies like ours just, they don't really get quite into that conversation.
Yeah.
Well, we're there in Kansas, and I think it's important for people to understand. That's a good thing, because those are the people that help make things happen in various ways. So it was good to go. Great conference. The out-of-the-box ideas, both the I forget his name, he was from Department of Ag, spoke the first day, been an ag teacher for 25 years and retired from that career and works at the Department of Agriculture, but he spoke so passionately about getting young people engaged with his FFA and VOAG students into welding shops and welding training, or working on agricultural projects, solving that liability problem, how passionately he was about that. So when somebody's passionate about something, it's because they know it's going to work. Either that or they're a really good actor in Camelot, right? But I don't think that applies to him. No. I think he knows this is a solution.
I think he was, yes, sincere and was on the right track for the solutions that we need to solve that. Absolutely.
What an encouragement for us to be able to have Dave in his camera and say, because somebody tunes in and maybe they're that Allison Blake at the Chamber and Dennis Weiss at Eagle Communications, they just don't happen to be on Channel 2, but their thing is education. What an opportunity and decision is going to come to the halls of education in Kansas. I'm convinced really soon that this opportunity of getting young people out of that classroom and into business earlier, and getting business into the classroom, both directions, you're going to get to make that decision, and gosh, I'm encouraging you to make it positively.
Absolutely. I was very encouraged by the ones that say they're proactive and they go both directions. They go, the businesses go into the classrooms themselves. I thought that was a fantastic idea and something that we need to explore here in Abilene. So
I'm the kind of guy that, maybe I didn't figure it out, but I just go get it done. So I'm making an offer. Any classrooms out there that want to hear from me on any of the topics of business that are important to you, I don't really care what it is, I'll come. May not be good at it, but I will try. And I think that's important to know. People sometimes don't want to ask unless they know the answer is yes. My answer is yes. If you want us there, it's yes.
That same goes for me. I'd be more than happy to talk about Abilene and quality of life. And I chose to move here on purpose. And, you know,
Well,
I am rural by choice.
Gosh, you know, so I'm still raising a kid. I have a 17-year-old son. We have 2 minutes left. But I've made a conscious effort to remind him what a great place Abilene is, because I watched my other three, and the world had far more influence on what they thought of hometown than I did, and I've determined to change that with my son. So I speak to that issue. I point out the freedoms, the flexibility, the positiveness he has. He got to sing on the stage at Carnegie Hall, and he played saxophone in the Thanksgiving Macy's Day Parade in Chicago. So he's seen the big city and been there, done that. I'm not trying to hide him. I'm trying to inform him that life here is pretty good. So I love a chance to do it in the schools.
Absolutely.
As a business guy, a successful business can be done here. Wonderful day to be in Abilene, isn't it, Allison?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, I probably used all of our time to finish off, but that's the way it works sometimes.
That's okay.
You'll come back.
That's okay. I will come back.
Fantastic to see you out there, out and about. Thank you. I hear good reviews everywhere I go in Abilene about your welcoming attitude at the Chamber, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you having me on.
Folks, I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. This is Allison Blake. She works for every business in town and the ones that are not in town as well in Dickinson County and our surrounding area. She works at the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce. You have a great day.